Welcome everyone to Buddhist Center. So lovely to be here tonight with all of you to share the Dharma and to talk about Lama Tsongkhapa's text and related text. It's great to see all your faces and names. I really appreciate you coming out tonight to listen. Before I get started, let me just say, in the language of the gods, nagas, and yaksas, in the language of demons and of humans too, and however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. Laike dan lu dan no jinke drubun da dan mi ke nan dan dro wa gon ji dra nan ji zamba tan che ke du da ji chi den do. So, like we always do, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this section because I have a few things that I want to discuss tonight really specifically. We've gone over this so many times, working with the various motivations that you generate in your morning practice that come from the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and the equalizing, exchanging self with others practice that leads to bodhicitta. If we do this on a daily basis, when we invite all sentient beings to come be our guests, to attend teachings with us, or when I invite all sentient beings here and imagine that I can speak in their own individual languages and that I'm actually, able to do what the Buddha can do. I'm leaving seeds and imprints in my mind to be able to, in the future, do exactly what the Buddha can do, and that's speak in the language of all beings, utter one response to all sentient beings' questions, and they'd be able to hear it in their own individual languages, all at the same time. So by me imagining that I'm able to do this, then I'm leaving imprints in my mind to be able to have that incredible quality of the Buddha's speech with those 60 melodious rhythms that we read about when we look at the excellent qualities of the Buddha's body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. So it's important that we lay the groundwork and create the ripening paths and the accumulations of the merit that are necessary in order for us to actually eventually have that state where we have perfect wisdom, perfect power, perfect love and compassion, perfect skillful means, all of these incredible qualities that the Buddha has. And they all come from engaging in practices we're going to talk about tonight, engaging in mental exercises that make our minds more flexible and our minds flow more towards sentient beings instead of away from them, because it's our tendency to kind of push sentient beings away unless they have a special relationship with us. We try to, only surround ourselves with those things that, make us the most happy in our minds, and it never seems to work out. And it's because we haven't figured out how to generate a non-biased attitude and how to generate a love and a compassion and a kind of an altruism towards all sentient beings. So by laying the groundwork in our minds and becoming more familiar with it, we eventually start thinking more and more like a Buddha, like an enlightened being, instead of thinking in the self-cherishing ways that I go about my day thinking are the means to my happiness, when they are only the means to all of my suffering. Everything horrible in the world comes from self-cherishing, and all the good things in the world come from cherishing others. And we start to believe this more and more and more when we reap the benefits of our meditation and see that when we interact with folks in public and we start to see these beings as neutrals and strangers and can relate to them more in a loving kind of way, instead of a way that just kind of disregards them or isn't paying attention, we see how our minds start to expand, and the happiness and the light feeling in our mind starts to occur. And the tightness, being the being bound up, the mind being so bound up, starts to loosen a little bit, and we're able to experience a sense of ease that only increases. And that's what our proliferating Buddha nature is. It's these good qualities of our mind that can be enhanced. So the qualities of love and compassion that we have towards just a few can be enhanced so that we don't have a biased attitude. And we know when we're feeling true love, how happy that makes our minds. And imagine if we could just feel that whenever we saw a being, because we've developed a relationship with them that is actually tallies with the reality of our previous lives and the way that we've interacted with them, but have just merely forgotten about. We've forgotten that they were kinder to us than anything we could ever imagine, and each and every one of them has been. And we've just merely forgotten it. So imagine that you, as I have, in the best way, starting, doing it, obviously we have to do it rather quickly when we're, trying to arrange it for something like this. But when we do it in our individual practices, as we see Kamala Shila really reinforcing, Lama Tsongkhapa pointing it out in the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, that we really need to make sure that when we're doing this, we're not just imagining beings that in outer space that don't exist. That should be beings that we're really connecting to. I heard Rato Khensa Rinpoche last night talking about that. You wake up in the morning and you start with, this person right here wants happiness, just like I want happiness. And you move it out in that way. You're dealing with real beings, is my point. So when you invite beings, imagining you're inviting the ones who are closest to you, those strangers, those difficult people, and then, all the rest of beings in the universe. And eventually, who all of them are. You will, when you eventually make your mind, have the various levels of clairvoyance that will allow you to do that and remove some of the kind of afflictive obstructions, and then eventually the obstructions to omniscience that disallow you from knowing all sentient beings and being able to help them in the utmost way. And when you become a Buddha, you will have fulfilled all of your needs and all of sentient beings' needs at that moment. Because all sentient beings need is a Buddha to show them the truth of suchness in order to no longer have to have suffering and no longer have to be unhappy. And the Buddha has came to the world because of kindness to show that by removing the afflictive obstructions, one never has to suffer again. And by removing the obstructions to omniscience, one could be in a total blissful state of complete reliability 24/7 that would never, ever end, the state of Buddhahood. So Buddha was so kind to come to this world and share that truth with us. So imagining as best you can that you bring all sentient beings here to be your guests for this teaching, to be able to hear the teaching on the teaching for beings of three capacities and so forth that we find in the Lam Rim. So imagine you bring all sentient beings here: hell, hungry ghosts, animal, human, demigods, gods, all beings in the universe. And if some of these names like hell beings or hungry ghosts seem strange to you, just keep an open mind. Realize that the Buddha, didn't come to this world to say things that weren't true, that weren't going to be beneficial for us. And the Buddha said that there's so many hidden things that you don't know. And just think about your own life and just think about technological advancements. Think about things that weren't known before that are known now, things that just would have never seemed to be possibly true, that could be possibly true, that are now just known as common facts. We're walking around with computers in our hands and we have an entire encyclopedia. Remember, as kids, we had to get the encyclopedia. It was way too much money. For some reason, it was way too much money, so you don't get it a lot. And some people have them and some people don't. And they seem to be the bearers of this knowledge. And, you look in these books and find all this facts out about different places in the world. You're like, oh my gosh, they have those. And it wasn't until you looked into that Encyclopedia Britannica, like me as a child, that I started to see the diversity of even sentient beings that we can just cognize by hanging around us, let alone different universes, different dimensions, different ways of being that, don't necessarily need, is there life on Mars? Well, maybe you can't see it. Maybe they don't need the same stuff that we do, and they don't abide in bodies like these. So you start to keep a more open mind around these 6 realms. And that's all I can say to you. I'm not trying to encourage you to, get really into iconography and mystical things that just seem so unbelievable. But I'm saying that when you start to look at reliable sources, the Buddha is a reliable source. And the Buddha pointed out these things that are so evident and so clear and can be used. Signs and reasonings can really lead you to the truth of these things. So the Buddha, some of these other things, there wouldn't be really a need. And there's a connection to virtue and levels of non-virtue in the 3 lower realms, and virtue and levels of virtue in connection to the 3 higher realms. So there are very, very specific reasonings and logic that falls behind this stuff. And you have to discover for yourself and decide whether you believe it or not. But just keep an open mind, because there's a lot of things that you didn't believe before that you believe now that you would have never believed, or could be true. And just even sentient beings, they're finding new species all the time, and they look strange, to my eyes, and they start to fit descriptions that you read in the Lam Rim of various beings that, you wouldn't even have thought of before. So I'm just asking you to keep an open mind. So inviting all sentient beings to be your guest, using the tools and using the kind of effective states of mind that you've created through your practice of the 7-point cause and effect and equalizing state and exchanging self with others. That's really, really the key, is that on a daily basis, you're making your mind be able to take every moment and make it more powerful. Because the more you can really feel this and really understand this and have, all the aspects of it in mind, the more that it's going to produce the result. A very, very big cause produces a very, very big result. And we have to understand that every moment there's cause potential that we're doing. So we can kind of do it and make it kind of a weak cause, or we can learn how to make every one of those moments so powerful that it's like being in a time machine to Buddhahood. It's not really a time machine. You're just utilizing all phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well are taught by the great seer. You're utilizing the way that things are. Causes produce results. Big causes produce big results. Bodhicitta, the biggest virtue, creates the biggest result, which is Buddhahood, which is a place where there's no bias towards friend. There isn't friends, enemies, and neutrals. There's just beings I equally want to benefit, that I want to have this state that I've read about of perfect love, perfect compassion, perfect skillful means, perfect power, where there's love but no tears. There's compassion but no tears. There's altruism but no tears. Because you, as a reliable guide, will know that you're doing everything you can, and there's nothing more that could be done for those people you love and have compassion for than what you are doing in your most subtle way to get them the truth of suchness, so they no longer have the self-grasping ignorance that gives rise to this conceptuality that has this inappropriate attention all over the place, that then becomes attached and becomes hatred and prideful, etc., or neutrally sits there believing things are intrinsically existent. And then one creates karma, one engages in action through body, speech, and mind. And positive actions give rise to happiness, and negative actions give rise to suffering. And this we can all agree upon. It doesn't matter what religion you practice. We all see all religions are rooted in compassion, rooted in this idea of generating love for others, love thy neighbor, checking yourself, really, really taming your own mind. Today, Umzala said that, we are not the discipline masters for the world. We're the discipline masters for our own mind. We tend to be like, oh, this person doesn't do this. They've been studying this long. How can they not know that? Well, what are you doing? We're supposed to be the discipline master of our own mind, not the discipline master of everybody else. We're supposed to somehow, be able to love everyone else and have compassion for everyone else, and eventually be able to be so skilled that we can discipline them by teaching them the truth of suchness so they can discipline themselves. So, everyone's got to discipline themselves, is my point. You, me, we all have to tame our own minds. There's no, if the Buddha could just tame our mind, the Buddha would just tame our mind, or take the suffering away, or sprinkle some water. But that's not how it works. Things arise from causes, results do. And if we want to have a separation from the afflictive obstructions, a separation from the obstructions to omniscience, then we have to engage in that which separates us from them. Okay, so now imagine that we bring all the merit field here. So we've brought all sentient beings here and said, hell, ready? There's going to be a show. There's something really magnificent's going to happen. and you're going to be able to hear exactly what you need, because there's this teacher who's able to teach in all languages. You're imagining this, right? And teaching you exactly what you need to know in order to move just a little bit forward on your spiritual path. I'm inviting you to this thing. And now you're going to get to see all the holy beings who made this possible. So this is the kind of, make this real, make this an experience that is something you can taste. You know, you want to know what food's like, taste it. Don't, read a description of it. So this is how we practice. We practice in a way that means something to us. We bring these beings here because we've matured our minds a little bit and know that our happiness depends upon other sentient beings. Our self-cherishing attitude causes us suffering. So, wow, what an opportunity to make our minds a little bit bigger and imagine that we're bringing sentient beings to the only thing that can help them. Imagine that the Buddha Shakyamuni is in the space in front of us, the founder, the teacher, the Bhagavan, transcendent destroyer, the one thus gone, this incredible being who's, gotten rid of the phobe, the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience, and doesn't abide in the extreme of peace or samsara, and therefore is ready and able spontaneously to help all sentient beings. So that's who you will become. You will become a being who's just like that, who has a separate mental continuum. You won't become Buddha Shakyamuni. You'll become Terry, Lich, Alice, whoever your names are, Buddha. The Buddha named this. Fill in your name, whatever your name is. Realize this. This is where we're headed. Buddha came to this world to say, hey, there's no caste system. There's no creator. There's no law that says you can't evolve to perfect love, compassion, wisdom, skillful means, and power. I'll show you exactly how to do it because I did it. And my mind was just as corrupt as yours. But I changed it. I changed it by relying upon a path of renunciation, love, compassion, bodhicitta, calming my mind down, concentration, and then realizing the nature of reality, realizing how one could see all aspects of an entity and having every aspect of that entity, when you apprehend it, tally with reality and not throwing inherent existence on it. Somehow, if you can figure all of this out, you no longer have to suffer again. You can have bliss forever and be of most aid to everyone in the universe. Wow. Buddha Shakyamuni came here to give us this instruction, and it's here in our world right now, living tradition. It's not a tradition that you read and you hope it works and so forth. No, go meet people who've practiced this for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years and see if they're like everyone else. See if they conduct their way of being, see if they can handle catastrophes, see if they engage in life the way that others engage in it, and see if they're dissatisfied or satisfied. See if they need all the things that you seem to need and never make you happy or not, or if they just can be wherever and be happy. Check it for yourself. Don't blindly believe in any of these things. This is what the Buddha said, like a goldsmith would in a market full of fake gold. Some of it's real. The goldsmith wouldn't just buy anything, would check it, cut it, rub it, break it open, make sure it's really gold. Do this with Buddha's teachings. And then when you find out that they're very logical, they're based on reasoning, they aren't based on any kind of blind faith, then you'll start to see the richness of the tradition and you'll throw yourself into your practice. But you won't unless you convince your self-grasping mind, your self-cherishing mind, that there may be a better way. And the only way you do that is the wisdom arisen from hearing, the wisdom arisen from analysis, and then the wisdom arisen from meditation. It does not come out like a lightning bolt out of the sky. You won't be chopping wood and suddenly have compassion for all sentient beings and realize emptiness. It's going to be something that you will mature from a learning perspective, then to an analysis perspective, because you have to make sure that what you learned is true. Cut and rub it, like the Buddha said. Everyone who's talking about Buddhism isn't presenting Buddhism accurately. I promise you that. And I don't mean like, oh, there's different traditions. I mean completely inaccurately. Teaching that Buddha said that there's no self that exists, period, full stop. That's a nihilistic view. Teaching these ideas that are just completely wrong while calling it Buddhism, and they won't cause you anything but more suffering and more samsara. So we really need to have this wisdom arisen from hearing and a lot of learning. I heard it from a lot of different places. And then, look at the authentic sources. Look at what the Nalanda Pandits say. Look at what Shakyamuni's sutras and tantras say. See if it all tallies with each other. See if these teachers are making stuff up, adding stuff, trying to water it down to make money off of you, trying to give you a practice for this life only, and you'll die ordinary, and you'll die not ready, and you'll die and be thrust into another life where hopefully you'll get it right that time. That's the stakes we're talking about here. When we're listening to garbage, when we're listening to things aren't the accurate teachings, that aren't actually shooting at the target, that's getting rid of self-grasping ignorance, that's getting rid of the grasping at things as being permanent, grasping at things as being, the suffering, happiness that are actually suffering, grasping at things as being some sort of clean when they're not, grasping at things as having a true inherently existent self when they don't. We have all of these things that we've got to correct in some way, and we're so fortunate. Buddha Shakyamuni in the space in front of us. Now imagine all the holy enlightened beings you can think of. Imagining His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, imagining Khyentse Geshe Wandak, our root teacher, who we were so fortunate to spend. I spent 25 years almost with him. I feel just like I won the lottery 1 billion times. There's nothing more in this life I could ever, now that I know what you get from it, ever have wanted more than having met with Khyentse Geshe Wandak. I mean, there's nothing that could be more important than that. If I could go back and be given $10 billion, I would not take it. I would just have taken the experiences and the hardships and all the hours of work that I had to do in restaurants. I would do that 20,000 more times to have a relationship with a true Lama like Khyentse Geshe Wandak. So imagining Khyentse Geshe Wandak, imagining Dema Loche Rinpoche and Khyentse Lobsang Gyatso and Geshe Lobsang Gompo, imagining Geshe Dorje Damdula and Umzala Geshe Aga and Jeffrey Hopkins and Lama Alan Wallace, all of these holy beings, Garchen Rinpoche, these holy beings we see that are just walking around and we are able to meet with. And even though some of them have passed, they're not in an abiding form somewhere, just not helping. And when we invoke them, when we ask them to come, let's imagine that it's just like when Lama Tsongkhapa did it. Lama Tsongkhapa called the merit field and they appeared in front of him. And they're appearing in front of us. We just don't have the karma to actually see it because we have all of these veils that are blocking it. But I assure you, if the veils are removed slowly, more and more of this will make sense, and it won't seem like such a fairy tale. Imagining all of the holy lamas of the extensive deeds lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Maitreya Sangha and Vasubandhu and Dignaga and Dharmakirti and the Muktasena and Haribhadra, Shakyaprabha, Gunaprabha, Lama Salingpa, Lord Atisha, the beings of the profound view lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri and Nagarjuna and Buddha Palita and Chandrakirti and Aryadeva and Shantideva and Baba Vega and Chandarashita and Kamalashila, Lama Salingpa and Lord Atisha. Imagining these beings, we're saying their names so we connect to them in this life and in our future lives, because we know that their books teach the truth of suchness, teach the liberating and ripening paths. We're so fortunate. The beings of the lineage of blessings passed down from Saraha, the great abbot of Nalanda, down to Matripa, Tilopa, Naropa, Lotsawa Marpa, Jetsun Milarepa, Jay Gampopa. All these holy beings we've read about and heard about are all our spiritual family. We imagine them right here. Imagining that Lord Atisha is teaching all of the various lineages that he was able to compile and put together to Drone Tompa, that incredible Upisaka lay practitioner who is responsible for the Lam Rim lineage dissemination. Never underestimate your ability as a layperson. The Lam Rim lineage dissemination comes through Drone Tompa. 3 old Kadampa lineages, imagining all these holy beings, the beings of the Nyingma lineage, Padmasambhava, Zapatu Rinpoche, imagining beings of the Sakya lineage, Satya Kunga Nimpo, Sakya Pandita, Sakya Randao, the Kaju lineage, imagining the Karmapas, imagining the Galupa lineage, Lama Tsongkhapa, Kirtupje, Jelsupje, Basu Chuji Jetson, Jayan Sheba, Panchen Sonanjapa, Jayan Rupi Dorje, Gonchu Jimmy Wampo, 7th Dalai Lama. All of these holy, incredible beings, imagining them in the merit field in front of you, imagining highest yoga tantra deities, performance tantra deities, action tantra deities, all of the 35 Buddhas, all of the protectors. Imagine they're all here in the space in front of you, and imagine that you brought all sentient beings here to be your guest. Now, we're going to recite the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. The Heart Sutra is a text that contains explicitly the literal teaching of the Buddha. When we look at how we differentiate between figurative, definitive, and figurative, or literal and figurative teachings, we see that in the Prasangika view, the literal teachings are those that teach about emptiness. And the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Heart Sutra, is where we find the teaching on emptiness. And it's so important to understand that the first thing that Geshe Dorje Damdu says before you want to study emptiness, do things exist? Yes. If you don't start there, then you're missing emptiness. Things exist. The self exists. I'm talking to you right now. The Jeff imputed on among a collection of the 5 aggregates, merely imputed on a collection of among these 5 parts aggregates that serve as a basis of designation, that Jeff is talking to you right now. So we have to sort that out. So emptiness isn't saying that there's no Jeff talking to you. It just says that the way that the Jeff that's talking to you, the mode of subsistence of the Jeff, isn't the way that it appears to Jeff or the way that it appears to you if you are who you appear to be. Because you appear inherently existent to me when I look at you even on the screen, and I'm not even seeing you. I'm seeing you through a picture and then deciding that that's you. That's barely even right to like the normal world. I'm seeing some picture moving and deciding, oh, that's you. I'm looking at you. I know you're right there. And the way that you appear to me is from your side completely. I don't feel like I have any role in what I'm observing. I just feel like you're over there, I'm over there, and there's an inherent quality to it that isn't dependent upon some sort of mental thought designation. I'm thinking there's somebody actually named Jeff here. There's a Jeff. There's something in this package called Jeff that's findable that's me. This package of 5 aggregates. I believe this. I believe it's in here somewhere, and then I'm like, well, no, I'm not my hand, duh. I'm something else. And I just run around like this, but I never investigated enough to really catch it, to catch what I'm even doing. Because who would? I mean, it's crazy people walk around and think things like this. I'm not my hand. I'm, like this isn't something that the ordinary world generally starts to investigate. And this is why we're in such trouble. And that's why it's so hard for us to start to undo this misunderstanding, because everything appears to me and you equally as inherently existent. And it not only appears that way, I believe it. I haven't even done this, like if I put blue sunglasses on, like Geshe Dorje Damdu and all the lamas talk about this. You put on blue sunglasses and you look at a white snow mountain. You know that it's not blue, but it's appearing blue, but it's not blue. We haven't done our due diligence at all. We don't even get to the part where we're like, yeah, it's appearing as inherently existent, the table, but I know it's not. And if we go there, it's just because we're like playing around a little bit and we have some correctly assuming consciousness that we're parakeeting. And then we get like this weird sense of pride. I'm just talking about my own meditation. Like, oh, that chair over there definitely doesn't inherently exist. But if it was something I really needed and you took it away, when everything's just fine, when everything's just acting as it's normally supposed to, we're good. And I can play that game where, oh, no, that thing's empty over there. But then take away my partner to never be seen again. And let's see how much my view is then. And like Umzala Ago is pointing out in Shanti Deva's text, and just pointing out in general, that we talk about this view of things not being inherently existent, being this, we have to get to that, because that's where these high scope Madhyamaka thinkers, but we haven't even gotten to the point where we like actually don't believe things are permanent. and you say, no, I know that my car is not permanent, but let it break before it's supposed to. It's permanently supposed to last a certain amount of time in your mind. Aga says, when something breaks, do you go, oh, yeah, I figured it would? Or do you go, why did that break at first? Even though you know it's in the nature of impermanence, that it's going to break no matter what, and that there isn't like a set day. It's not, that's not how any of this works. When it's been the day it broke, it was breaking the moment it was made, just subtly doing it, and no one was noticing it. It's been moving towards that. And if you didn't grasp at things as being permanent, you wouldn't be so shocked all the time when someone dies, when something breaks, when someone dies young, as if they're permanently supposed to, well, if they died at 10, well, they died too young. Where's the part where it's not too young? Where's the part where it's acceptable for it to have happened? Because I can't seem to figure out what that part is. But I feel like there is like, oh, they died too young. Like there's a permanent idea about how long a person's supposed to live, and it's shocking. And that I say like it's some sort of like weird phenomena that someone whose body is elements fighting itself the whole time and just warding off obstacles. Someone who has that going on and has, death will come and nothing can stop it, and we don't know when we're going to die. Someone who has that stuff that we read about in the Lam Rim and got so bored of hearing. Why would I be surprised when what is the nature of the thing to do happens? I would be surprised because I grasp at things as being permanent. It's the first thing the Buddha taught about the First Noble Truth. Grasping at things as impermanent as permanent. It's the first attribute of the First Noble Truth. This is the superior truth of suffering. We grasp at things as being permanent that are impermanent. We grasp at things as being happy that are suffering. We grasp at things as being clean that are unclean. We grasp at things as having a true self, an inherently existent self, when they're selfless. What is selfless? It doesn't mean self doesn't exist. It doesn't exist the way you think it does. It doesn't exist through its own identifiable objectivity inherently within itself, intrinsically. It's just merely a designation that a thought designates upon a collection that we can all agree upon. So it conventionally is true. I'm conventionally speaking with you. But the way that I think I'm speaking with you, and the speaker, the speaking, the spoken to, I think all of that's inherently existent when none of it is. And the Heart Sutra comes to teach us this, explicitly this. So these negations are about the way you think things normally abide. They don't. They're merely designated they're merely designated by a thought in dependence upon a collection that serves as its basis of designation. The thought is what brings this thing in, not the object. The object does not exist from its own side. And when you think that it does, you overvalue it. You give it inappropriate attention. You say, that's pleasant, that's unpleasant. And pleasant things you become attached to. Unpleasant things you push away and punch. So you see how this whole thing gets started. And it gets started because of this misapprehension of everything, the self of person, self of phenomena you believe inherently exists. You believe that objects, yourself and objects, have some intrinsic nature, findable nature from my own side, from its own side, that isn't dependent upon my mere designation, my thought designation. I feel that you're over there and you're not dependent upon my thought designation. But then when I try to find the Terry or the Alessandra that I'm designating in the parts that I'm concluding are you, are you your, earth, water, fire, wind, the space inside of you? Is that you? Are you your consciousness? Your consciousness isn't male or female. So I can't find this thing that I feel is over there. And it has to be abiding in a way that's different than I think. And this is what we have to learn. We're not going to sort it all out tonight, but this is what we're trying to learn, to try to get to the bottom of. And then explicitly, it teaches emptiness, the Heart Sutra. And then implicitly, it shows us exactly how we traverse the 5 paths, how we become bodhisattvas, and then how we go from becoming a bodhisattva to becoming a Buddha, basically through the path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning. So this sounds like technical stuff, and it is technical stuff. Undoing your mind that's been wrong since beginningless time is probably pretty technical. It's a lot more technical than quantum physics. So you're going to need the right information to figure this out. And this isn't theory. This is something that's a discovery. That's the nature of reality. That's a truth. And find out if you can refute it. That's it. That's what the Buddha came to say. And you won't be able to. And that's why I came here to tell you about it, Buddha said. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha monks and a great gathering of the Sangha Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajaparamita, saw in this way, he saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita, should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics, there is no birth and no cessation, there is no impurity and no purity, there is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu, up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind conscious dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times by means of Prajaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. The Prajaparamita mantra is said in this way: Teata om gate gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisoha. Thus Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family. Thus it is, O son of noble family. Thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Gala jube nijo damba nengaje de ngai de jen baba lama yi bujinzi nizun gandro zo la jatse lo aga samara te chandra samara be aga samara te chandra aga samara Agasamara Jashandara Samara Yabe, Deata Om, Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Buddhizo, Baba Ganjajiga, Edemedoji, Lobadoji, Mebodoji, Shewadoji, Dragi Baji, Medubishi, Danji, Shedding Goyas, oh, Gerin Jaji, Jawadan, Midon, Nebejan, Andrawadan, Dambadran, Jim Bonzon, Zonjoji, Dashi de Jandenda de Lejo. Make a mandala offering. Remember, all sentient beings are making this mandala offering with you, and then all of the enlightened beings are receiving this and just so overjoyed, and was a request for teaching. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. If you are attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you are attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you are attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there's grasping, you do not have the view. Okay, so we have a little bit of time. That makes me happy, because I literally went like this and looked at the time and thought it may be 8:30. I have no concept of I don't have like a time sheet here at 7:45 I'll be talking, and then by 7:55 I'd like to get to so just I appreciate that you bear with my style of teaching, and it's really just to share with you what I've learned over these years because of being so fortunate to be around these incredible teachers. And I'm trying to learn how to share. That's what we need to learn how to do. They taught us this in kindergarten, but then we forgot it, and we hoard and keep things that we think are so precious and don't let anybody have them. So I'm trying to learn how to share, and I'm sharing with you what I shared with you before is the most important thing that ever happened to me. That was meeting Khyentse Geshe Wandok and then having him share this with me. So I'm sharing what he shared with me, with you, and it's something that's so against my nature that it's like an atomic bomb for the self-cherishing attitude. It's a little secret, a little secret to explaining when you're explaining the teachings, that it's giving something that really means more than anything you could ever give. So I encourage all of you to really study and then explain these things. There's no one has a lock on explaining these things. What changed Tibet is that they started to be able to have folks that could explain these things, and they didn't have to import people to explain these things. And this is because we all have the seed of perfection within us. We have this Buddha nature. We have proliferating Buddha nature. We have good qualities we can enhance to the point of perfection. And our mind's empty of inherent existence, so it can happen. So really, just take delight in the fact that you have this opportunity, and we have the pure teachings, and they work. They really do. They really work, and they will make your mind change if you put the work in. Umzala Aga was showing and pointing out in His Holiness the Dalai Lama's commentary on the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life that nothing really, really great ever came easy. You never put a small amount of investment in and then got this huge profit, unless it was some random weird thing. We know, generally speaking, if you want something really, really magnificent, if you want something really special to occur, you're going to have to really do some special things to make that happen. If you wanted $1 billion, don't put a penny in the stock market, is the point. And think, where's my $1 billion? Don't expect spiritual richness without investment, is the point. And it was over and over again, just ringing home in the beginning of Shantideva's text, that we're so familiar with non-virtue that even when we're doing good things, they're just swept away. And we're just so like leaves in the wind, ready to just blow towards the next wrong thing that we're doing that is just going to create unhappiness. So we're looking at the source of all my good, Lama Tsongkhapa's text that condenses all of the teachings Lord Buddha ever gave into 14 stanzas. It's the roadmap to enlightenment. It's a commentary, if you will, on Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and a commentary, if you will, in some ways, a commentary on the Abhisama Alamkara, because the great treatise of the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment says is a commentary on the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment by Lord Atisha, and also, in general, the Abhisama Alamkara by Lord Maitreya. And we know that this is a summary of the Lamrim Chemo and the Ngarim Chemo. So we could even, maybe extend what we say about just the kind of implicit things that are contained within this text. So we can say that all of the tantras also are contained within this text, and all the tantras are contained within the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. Abhisama Alamkara, of course, being not a tantric text, It's in the perfection vehicle. So it's the ornament for clear realization by Lord Maitreya. So I don't want to confuse things, but do be aware that the Lamrim Chemo deals with the tantric path at the end with a very few words, but the Ngarim Chemo by Lama Tsongkhapa is the stages of the tantric path, and expands on the 4 classes of tantra in humongous ways, more so on action and highest yoga tantra. But the action tantra section is unparalleled. I mean, it's incredible. If you want to practice Tara, Chenrezig, Manjushri, and you really get to the point where you've developed a mental basis that can practice Tantra, and you're not just fooling yourself and trying to go higher than you can, just to try to be cool. When you're really there and you want to do it, you'll find in English the way to do these practices. And Lama Tsongkhapa was so kind to clarify it. So there's just a richness of tradition and explanations that you're going to be able to find if you seek them out and you don't get satisfied with partial instructions and you do systematic studies. Learn the 4 Noble Truths, understand what the Buddha was meaning at the 4 Noble Truths, and learn the 2nd turning of the wheel, and what did the Buddha mean at the 3rd turning of the wheel of Dharma, and how do the tenet systems all relate to that? And then you really can see the richness within this, and it'll start to really have an effect on your mind. So the source of all my good contains all of the teachings Buddha ever gave, and it's summarized into 14 stanzas. Wow, amazing, right? And Pabunka Rinpoche, who is an incredible Lama, says that we can divide this text into 4 categories. The first category being the very root of the path, how to find a teacher and properly serve him or her. And then it gets into, now you've found a teacher, what do you do? How do you start to train your mind? And then there's a request that you can attain all kinds of favorable conditions for succeeding in the path and remove any circumstances that will make you not succeed. And then finally, a prayer that in all your future lives, you're taken care of by a teacher, that you meet with teachers who give you authentic teachings. Don't give you half the story, because half the story doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't get you halfway there. That's the thing you have to understand about this path, is you get half the story, it doesn't get you halfway there. It just gets you more samsara. You have to have the whole story and practice whatever you can within the whole story to your best of your ability. Half the story and focusing only on, for instance, mindfulness practice. Just focus on the breath the rest of your life. You will not end cyclic existence. You may be able to end up somewhere cooler in samsara, but that will end. And you will then have to go maybe be a worm. And all of those things that you developed were just to become a worm in the end of the day. So you have to have a completely integrated path, a path that shows you how one would go from a state like me to Buddhahood, step by step by step. And that's what these teachings do. And that's why they're just indispensable. And they're found, the Lam Rim, the stages of the path are found in all of the lineages of the Tibetan Buddhism. And the stages of the path, if you know how to interpret and understand the teachings of the Profound View and Extensive Deeds lineage, you'll see that the stages of the path are just an easier way to explain all of those things. And then the Nalanda tradition and all of this Profound View and Extensive Deeds lineage were just easier ways to explain the Buddha's sutras and tantras. So there has to be a concordance. Yeah, there has to be that whatever I'm teaching you should tally with what Buddha said. If it doesn't, you can listen to me if it's neat. It's free. I say whatever I want. But if you want to do Buddhism and you want the goal that Buddha achieved, and I'm saying something that doesn't tally with what Buddha taught, or Nagarjuna, explaining what Buddha taught, we have a problem. And I'm not presenting you with a ripening or a liberating path that will actually end your suffering and your afflictive obstructions and end your lack of blissful states and unreliability. I won't teach you that if I give you a partial instruction. If I don't teach you how to get concentration and renunciation and bodhicitta and the correct view of emptiness, then I'm not telling you what you need to know to become a Buddha. I'm not. So test it. See if people are, be your tester. This is what I'm saying. See if the texts say that that's a mark of if the teaching's accurate or not. Then go check teachings. See if they're accurate or not. Be your own master. You're the judge because you have a mind that can analyze these things and listen to them. You have an education. You were taught how to think about things. You know how to order stuff on Amazon. You know how to get what you want. Well, get what you really want. For real. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him or her in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him or her with all my strength and reverence. So here we find the very root of the path is the teacher, how to, what is the proper teacher? What are the qualities? The Mahayana Sutra Alankara talks about 10 qualities a teacher should have. Look them up. What are the teacher should care about you. If a teacher's just trying to make money, they're not going to tell you what you really need to hear if it's not going to make the money that they need. It should be out of a compassion because they themselves have recognized that there's certain problems that aren't being dealt with that I'd like to share with you in my own mind that weren't being dealt with. And we're going to get into something pretty cool tonight. I have some readings that I want to get to. So this is just basically, if you want to learn the most difficult subject on the planet, you're going to need a real serious scholar who knows how to do that, knows how to present it, knows exactly what the stages are. And you're going to need to make sure that they heard them from a really qualified person that knows what the stages are and how to go about them. And you're going to probably need some specialists who specialize in certain areas of the teachings that maybe you are finding you aren't getting all of this from this one teacher. I can't give you all of the things you're going to need to become a Buddha. I can give you the general framework, but there's things that you're going to need to seek out highly realized beings to understand. But if you know what you're looking for, I can show you what you're looking for. I can show you what you're looking for. And that's the real thing that matters so most. Next stanza. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. And we see here, we come to find out that we have this human basis that has so much potential. And it's one of these bases from which we can really practice the Dharma. But it's easy for us to die. And it's hard for us to get another life like this. And we don't know when we're going to ever have it again. I mean, it seems like it was so easy for us to get it because we got it. But when we study karma and we look at what it just takes, this ethics and the practice of the 6 perfections and these stainless prayers in order to produce this basis that I have right now, and to produce one that has leisure, that can actually has no hindrances to meeting with the Dharma, this is really, really special. And we need to take advantage of it. I mean, in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, right at the beginning, right in the first chapters, stanza 4, leisure and opportunity are hard to find. And since they accomplish what is meaningful to a person, if I don't take advantage of them now, how will I have such a perfect opportunity again? How? We have this incredible life of opportunity right now. What are we waiting for? And then tonight we're going to read from the verses of advice for meditating on impermanence by Goncho Dembe Drome. He was a great master, the late 1700s, early 1800s, also known as Guntang Jayang. Has a couple names, but Guntang Dembe Drome. But he wrote this incredible text. So I'm going to kind of try to use this to, help with the teaching this evening. So it says, within the sky sphere of marvelous great bliss, your cloud-like forms gather to train sentient beings, showering down rains of teachings profound and vast. To you, the holy gurus, I bow and I prostrate. So you're seeing a theme here. First stanza of Tsongkhapa's text, first stanza here is about homage to the teacher, because we know we need a teacher. We know that in all our lives, we're going to need teachers to teach us more and more subtle things. We're going to need really good ones to be able to do that. So we're really recognizing that all of our happiness depends upon having the right teacher. And once we have the right teacher, we know they're the source of all of our happiness. And we know that material things aren't the source of all of our happiness. The Lama is, because the Lama has taught us, what we need to do. Why is the teacher the source of all of our happiness? Because they can give it to us? No, because they can teach us how to find it ourselves, how to discover it ourselves, like Buddha Shakyamuni discovered it himself. Tara discovered it herself. So we realize that by what does taking its essence mean? What is Shantideva saying? It means practicing the Dharma, using this for something that will allow me to have eventually freedom from suffering and bliss and be the most reliable guide in the universe, and begin to know how to, in my next life, not have a disaster. And that's where we begin. The teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity, or the small scope. It's where we learn how, okay, taking the essence of this life, we'll first learn how to kind of abandon attachment for this life. If you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. Goncho, the Sachen Konga Nimpo, that's what we're talking about. If you're not practicing the Dharma until you throw away the kind of grasping and thoughts for this life's cooked. You've created the causes and conditions for your experiences, and now you're laying railroad tracks for your destination. You're laying tracks in your mind for where you're going, and your bad deeds are going bad places, and your good deeds are going good places. And all the things that we did in our life, all of these things we were attached to, we don't get to keep the things we were attached to. We just keep the imprints of our attachment. And attachment is a disturbed state of mind. So when you learn these things, you see that being attached to material things makes no sense. If you're going to die, you're only carrying forward a disturbed state of mind and not the thing. So this idea of grasping at things as being permanent, the undoing of it, the Mitun show, the opposite of it, starts to allow us to loosen our grip before we even know about emptiness. Really, we know about the emptiness of permanence, but emptiness of inherent existence isn't even touched when we know about the emptiness of permanence. But it's loosening it up already. And this is why the tenets are so important, because you can see I can't believe things break. I need to know what Vaibhashika is talking about and Sautrantika is talking about. I still can't believe things break. I believe things, the self, permanent, unitary, and independent. I don't think that I'm going to break. I mean, I know I'm going to break, but I'm not going to break today. There's no way I'm going to break today, because I'm here today. Think about the way we think about our lives in the world, and it's so screwy. It really is. So taking the essence would be doing something about the screwiness that disturbs my mind all the time and makes me not be able to be reliable and blissful. Really. And we have a basis from which we can do something about it. It wouldn't make sense to say do something about it if you couldn't, or if you had a basis from which you couldn't. But we know that you can get aspiring bodhicitta in any physical basis in the realms where, in these physical bases among the 6 realms where we have these forms, we can get the aspiring bodhicitta. And the mental basis is just something we have to make. We look at the qualities of the mental basis. It's like refuge, and knowing the Buddha's good qualities, and knowing it's something you want to become. I mean, it's so obvious. So then it says, my body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles. Okay, so in this text, it says, this fortune birth, which is obtained but once, is liable to slip from our grasp without bearing fruit. So traverse the path to liberation while you can. And for that, let this whip of advice spur you on. So it's like a whip. He's like a horse whip. And Terry, we were talking about the horse racing, So it's, it's like, let this text kind of get you moving. So this is the Gontandemi Drome's aspiration. And then, okay, so why do we need to get moving? Well, Tsongkhapa says we do because my body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrong of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. So we're going to die. And, we have these ideas that we're going to be able to complete our tasks, and we can start practicing when we get this project done or that project done, or, we feel like we have all of this time on our hands, but we really don't. We spend 20 years, making a plan to do something, and then 20 more years like saying, yeah, okay, we will. And then, it's just too late by the time we, come to decide that it's time. It says, yeah. So let's just read on. So now we're going to talk about what's Tsongkhapa talking about. We can find in Buddha's teaching on the Sutra on Impermanence. You can read that if you want to go back to the original source. I was going to read it tonight, but I'm not going to have time, and I must get through this text because it was referenced in the Dalai Lama's teaching that Umzala Aga's teaching me. It's a 600-page book, and I went and found it in English, and just a stanza of it was mentioned. And I found it in English, and then I read it, and then read it to Lori, and we were like, wow. So any wows I have, I want to share wows with you. I'm learning to share. I'm learning to play nice with others. That's what Buddhism's teaching us, what we were supposed to learn, but then we just became so invested in ourselves, and society told us self-cherishing attitude's the way to go. And then we forgot the very basic things that we were taught, that sharing makes you happy. People like you when you share. It's just so strange that we need like Buddha, to come, and like Nalanda Pandits and like these geshes debating to come and be like, sharing makes you happy. Be a good friend. Be a friend to the world. Everybody wants to be happy. It's really rudimentary stuff we just have in our hearts. And because we have it in our hearts, we can make it bigger. That's what we can do. That's what we have. That's all we have. So it says, let this whip of advice spur you on. So obviously he's going to go hard. Thoughts that we may finish this life's tasks within just a single month or a year, only then to practice Dharma well, are like harmful spirits that deceive us. Shanti Deva. So that's giant. Oh, I got to go back and forth. Guntang Dembe Drome's text. And then if we look at the Shanti Deva's text, it talks about the same exact thing, not, having all of these things, that the Lord of Death, the untrustworthy Lord of Death, waits not for things to be done or undone. Whether I am sick or healthy, this fleeting lifespan is unstable. It's just not stable. We don't know when we're going to die, and we're definitely going to die. Leaving all, I must depart alone. But though not having understood this, I committed various kinds of evil for the sake of friends and foes. My foes will become nothing. Just my evil carries forward. My friends become nothing. All the bad stuff I did with my buddies, they die, I die. Just bring the bad stuff. I too will become nothing. Likewise, all will become nothing. We don't think like that. This is what Umzala was teaching me when he said things break, and you don't think that they should. Just like a dream experience, whatever things I enjoy will become a memory. Whatever has passed, you won't see it again. Wow. You won't see it again. You could argue, I'll see my teacher in my future life. No, you, Jeff, merely imputed on dependence upon a collection of aggregates that serve as a basis of designation, that name Jeff, won't see this stuff again, won't see Khensa Rinpoche again. Feel that. Feel the feeling of that, and that's what we're trying to get at. The tasks of this life are like ripples on water, fresh ones arising just as others fade. Even as we finish them, they continue to increase. So, we just keep taking on more tasks. So we'll get, well, there's this one more thing I need to get done. I just need this one more thing. And that all the while you're just ticking away like an army killing time, killing your time. You've created an army to kill your time, like Arya David talks about, an army marching moments, just killing your time. What are you doing with your time? Are you taking the essence of your time? Even as we finish them, before tomorrow's Dharma practice can arrive, there's a danger death will come to us today. We read this a lot in the Lamrim teachings. Thus, if we wish to practice the Dharma, let us, without self-deception, begin right away. Although Buddhas and Bodhisattvas came in the past, their activities pervading throughout the three realms Now they are no more and are only names that remain. Still, in this, they are teachers of impermanence. We saw Kensur Geshe Wandak, most powerful being I ever knew. He's no longer with us. He taught us impermanence. He taught us impermanence 5 minutes before we were supposed to start class that we started every single Sunday. Think about that. He waited to pass away till like right at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock in the morning every Sunday we had class. He died at like 4 minutes to 10, 5 minutes to 10 a.m. Teaching us impermanence. Though kings' ministers are proud of their wealth, wrought chains of history so great and so wonderful, unexamined, it all seems so real and concrete, doesn't it? Yet throughout the three realms, not a trace remains. Really, it seems so real and concrete, all this stuff around us, all of us, our things, your things, my things, and all these kings. You know, Alexander the Great, the story that Geshe Dorje Damdu always says, you know, when I die, I want you to be carried by the greatest doctors to show you that you can't escape death even with the greatest doctors. And I want all my wealth strewn all over the road. I conquered the world, and all my wealth I can't bring with me. You know, that's all this wealth is just all over the road. And make sure my hands are sticking out of my coffin empty to show I left with nothing. So true. Seems so real and concrete to Alexander the Great while he was slaughtering. Right? We're not doing anything that horrendous, but if Alexander the Great left like this, what will we do? The Buddha, just Shakyamuni, so wondrous, left this world to common appearances. What about us? Friends from the past, similar to us in age and strength, have been taken all of a sudden by the Lord of Death. Think about it. Your own people who are younger than you have died. So with what confidence can you possibly claim that we shall not fear when death's time arrives? How can you say that? You know people have died younger than you. You're composite and you're human. Your elements are fighting each other too. Even sheep among the most foolish of creatures are alarmed when seeing their fellows butchered. And I just saw something where the cows, when they see the cloth put over the head, there's sacrifice rituals and stuff in India, the other cows will come and show a compassion because they know it's about to happen. I just saw this video I didn't want to see. So failing to apply their example to ourselves, are we not more insensible than such beasts? That this body's nature is to die at a time uncertain can be understood without reference or citation. Like, I don't need to quote the Buddha to say, you don't know when you're going to die. You've seen all kinds of stuff happen. Kids die, older people die, younger people die. You just see it if you've lived 5 seconds, you know, and you have paying any attention whatsoever. You don't need a quote. But if with bare senses you still do not see it, then surely idiot must be your designation. Right? If we see it all around us, we don't believe it. Like we must just be idiots. This gathering of dear ones, servants, dependents is like a mound formed of leaves fallen from a tree. A gust of wind will scatter them through a hill and vale. And once dispersed, they never converge again. People from different places crowded in a market are like the bees gathered at the end of autumn, dispersing no sooner than they've come together. A teaching on transience for those of understanding. Take the outer world of the elements for as an example. Don't be deceived by the labels of summer and winter. It too doesn't last. And with each 10 days that pass, the mountains and the rivers, valleys change their colors. You don't notice. Blue spring water ripples like a dancer and makes pleasant music with its flow. But when gripped by winter's icy chill, can only whisper as if sobbing in sorrow. So we do the elements. There's not, we grasp at these things, these moments that we have, this beautiful day on the beach, as if that's all there is. It's like time stops. Time doesn't stop. It's that beautiful day on the beach is a moment, every moment closer to snow. You're just not paying attention well enough. You're just not seeing it. You're not seeing that it's just disintegrating. Anyway, you get the point. How pleasant the meadow with its flowers as it dances to the singing of bees, but all turns to lament and desolation when autumn brings the fierce frost and hail. The cord of life is as fragile as a rope of straw on which two mice day and night do gnaw. And with each and every moment that goes by, our meeting with death, the enemy draws nigh. When a child young and bright can sicken unto death, to be mourned by parents whose hair is white as a conch and whose backs are hunched over, bent like a bow, who then dares to say it's the old who are first to go? You see people with gray hair whose children die before them. The children have no gray hair. This isn't the sign you're going to die first. It's a sign the Lord of Death is starting to spit on you. But it's not a sign that you're going first. Struck by adversity as when a crop is stung by hail, the rich man may lament his loss and sorry situation, but his cries for help will likely go unanswered, even by the poor servants who cared for in the past. Today's ally can transform into tomorrow's foe. As unguarded words are often misconstrued, yet this can provide a teaching that will put an end to false notions of distant enemy, intimate friend. So he's friends, enemies, and neutrals, distancing, pushing away enemies and grabbing at friends. This teaching puts an end to that attitude that's actually a disturbed mind and you don't know it. A non-disturbed mind wouldn't feel that. Or get away, even if it's at a slightest level. Oh, I don't want to lose my partner. Oh, were they looking at him or her? Think about your life and what's true and not true. Think about insecurities. Think about it. Samsaric riches are deemed fortune in abundance, but as a burning lamp is as if a palace to a moth, their alluring appearance serves only to deceive and to lead us from the real happiness that lasts. In brief, the Lord of Death will soon arrive. That is certain, even if the time's unknown. And when he comes, there's no escape. For as you're caught in the dreadful fangs, even the body you've known for so long must remain in its bed as you go on alone. So Umzala was saying that this body that we think is us is going to be laying in a bed. And our consciousness then goes to our next life, our subtle consciousness. And what is it? What's it bring? Our friends, our enemies, our body we cherish so much? No. Our affinities, our imprints, our virtues, our non-virtues, our habitual tendencies. So do you want to carry with you something that is definitely disturbing? And if not, then we have to figure that out if you don't want to be disturbed, because this body is going to stay in the bed and the mind's going to go forward and be in a bardo and then be in another life of some sort. Causes, results. What are you causing? It says the body remains in the bed as you go alone, denied even so much as a backward glance. Your consciousness goes and isn't like, I'll see you later. It was really nice knowing you. I'm glad I don't, have to deal with this old crappy body anymore. I get to get a new one. It's not the way that it's going to go down. It's going to be like, you read about it and it's like, you're looking at your body, No, it's going to be real fast. You're going to be attached and then you're going to be thrust into something out of control and you won't even know Jeff anymore. You're going to be this being that you're so confused and won't even understand it. All help towards allies, all bettering of foes, carried out so tirelessly throughout this life. Just like Shantideva was talking, we do stuff bad around friends. We do stuff bad around enemies. We get angry at enemies. We engage in lots of gossip and lots of bad stuff with friends, parties, just distraction and what we do with our friends and enemies. What do you do with them? You figure out your own pleasant mix of insanity. I know mine. You have to figure out yours and fix it. I'm trying to fix mine. It says we have to abandon for the final journey. The only baggage, your virtues, your flaws. That's what you bring. Your mind brings that. Then on the intermediate stages, unfamiliar path, what was I just saying? You don't know what's going on. You'll face the army of the dreaded Lord of Death, and deceived by samsara's fortunes, you'll be lost because you have been deceived. You won't be ready. Now you're lost again, lost in space again, lost in space like you came out of the room, lost in space, 1 year old, and you just don't even know what's going on around you. Imagine what it was like in a womb if you were as cognizant of when you were thinking, you just were in a womb and you just don't remember it. Imagine how confused you were, or going through with a light body of an intermediate state in a weird form and seeing things around you that look similar and no idea. That's what we're talking about. It's going to happen, according to people who know about it. For even seeing your mistakes, regret is futile then. Oh, I wish I hadn't done all that bad stuff, but it's too late. Now is the time that you can fix this mind. The fixing of the mind's over when you die. You're on to something new, and you can't, the maturing, it's tough. You got it now. You've got this little window here. The Dharma is your guide on a path unknown. The Dharma is your food on a journey arduous and long. The Dharma is your protector in a dangerous realm. So engage in the Dharma with body, speech, and mind from now on. If at this time, when you have the power for ultimate happiness, you don't build a safe base, what will you do as you draw your final breath and your hysterical mind finds no resting place? And I've seen this. It doesn't matter who, but I've seen someone at the end of their life who was not Khyentse Geshe Wandak realized, who died scared, screaming, and had to be injected and calm down and gripping the last moments. And I was capable of helping, but they weren't capable of hearing. So it wouldn't be right for me to try to help because they wouldn't even know what I was talking about. Why? Because of not ripening in this life, not being ready in this life. I've witnessed two. One didn't go so well. I loved that person. Other went great, and I loved that person. And I analyzed the difference. Both people were incredible human beings. One person understood emptiness and impermanence. The other didn't. What will you do as you draw your last breath and your hysterical mind finds no resting place? I've seen this. This is a song of impermanence, a meditation, a great light for the middle way's illumination. Its purpose is to strengthen the mind's determination for Dharma, from the start, in the middle, to ultimate liberation. As one's mind becomes well inclined towards Dharma, many paths make claims to be profound, but the authentic tradition of the victor Losang Drapa shows the essential intention of each Pusan Buddha, from oral explanation and deep meditation of the teachings of Sutra and Tantra. Know the path well in all of its aspects, fully intact, without error, and then every day, without interruption, create positive imprints with firm meditation. Right from the preliminaries until the conclusion, perform well the words of J. Lama. Thereby, you'll take the heart essence of this life of fortunes and endowments. By the strength of the merit accumulated thus, may the thief of the view of self-permanence lose all its power to grasp true existence, and may I reach the realm of the deathless. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So we're going to stop there. This is just, therefore, Shantideva, last thing, therefore, I now seek refuge in the Buddhas who protect the world, who strive to shelter all that lives, and with great strength eradicate all fear. Look at that. We have this right in our hands, right here. Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. We'll get more into the source of all my good in the future, but we're going to go through it like this now a little bit. And I feel really blessed to be able to, I've always wanted to pair Shantideva's text a little bit with this. And here we are. Fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I've collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Azandrapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I made, may they be purified by this mantra. Om benzasato samayam and avalaya benzasato zena bajita dida me vazudagai me vazubagai me vanarag me vazavazidi me brajazava suju me kidam shion kurum ha bhagavan zavadata kata benzamami munka benzavaba mahasamaya safa home fate. May you always be protected by Palden Lamo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jojo Ramo Tunjo Kalarache Mo Ramo Acha Dacha Tunjo Rulu Rulu Hongjo Home. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors to traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land, surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. And a prayer of supplication to Namgyal Khentsur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche. And thank you all for allowing me to do this and allowing me to gain the merit and, start to remove the obstacles through ripening paths that disallow me from being able to see emptiness and, achieve the various grounds that a bodhisattva would. And in order to move the rocks out of the way and create the most conducive states possible for me to be able to see emptiness as a bodhisattva when I eventually become a bodhisattva, it's because of this. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Khentsur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music purified by Om 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 Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you, who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like a teacher who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond, and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that your teachers passed away and understood this sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. The sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world, take care of us in all of our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. Thank you so much, everyone. And please practice these teachings, and I hope they're of benefit to your mind. I hope that they give you little hints in how you can, tweak your practice or apply these stages to your daily life. Because if you don't, you're missing all the moments that you're wasting. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great week. Keep your minds virtuous. That's all you bring.